Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to episode 5 of Brand Studio Live. I'm Ramit and I have a brand new set of brand masters with me in the newsroom today. Hosted jointly by HT Brand Studio and DMA Asia, Brand Studio Live brings together the country's top CXOs to talk about the hottest topics in marketing. In the process, we not only learn from the best, but we're also inspired by them. Without further delay, let's get started with today's episode. Long gone are the days when our smartphones would be used to make calls or send text messages. Today, the chances are if you see a person peering down on his mobile phone, she's probably watching a video. It could be on social media, it could be on a news website, on WhatsApp. There's been a massive shift in content consumption, and recent research shows that 91% of internet consumers favor interactive and visual content over text and static content, and that's telling. No wonder then that the number of global internet video users is expected to stand at 1.9 billion in 2021. Video is taking over the digital world, regardless of where it's being posted. The question is, are we ready for that new world? India, for example, another study reveals, has internet citizens who watch online video content for an average of 8 hours, 28 minutes every week. But that's not important. What's important is that that's more than the time that they spend watching TV. With people spending so much more time watching videos online, especially on their smartphones, can brands take advantage? Can they connect better with customers? Do videos indeed allow brands to come to life and create lasting impressions in the mind of consumers, the way we always thought television did? Also, does this new advent of video actually appeal to emotions, and especially emotions of people on the go and often close to the moment of truth? Let's start today by hearing it from Rajiv Bansal, who's the CEO of HT Digital. Rajiv, video is taking over the world as news publishers and as people who trade in trust. What is your view on video on the mobile phone?
So I'll share a couple of different perspectives on this. First of all, having spent my entire career being focused on consumers, I'll share the consumer perspective on it. And second, I'll share a little bit of the publisher perspective on it. From a consumer perspective, this is truly the golden age of video. First of all, video is an incredibly immersive format compared to other forms of content consumption. So you talk about the emotions of consuming video, and that's totally true. So you can get lost in video, and that's fantastic. Second, video has become more accessible than at any point in our past. Talk about like bandwidth, where bandwidth now supports broad video consumption. The cost of consuming video, especially on mobile. I don't know if you remember, but 10, 15 years back, it used to be all TV. So TV was the only place where you could actually access video. But today you can access video on TV, on over the top, over the internet, over your mobile phone. So truly, today is sort of the golden age of video consumption. And then for a large number of audiences, and this is what gets me excited as a publisher as well, video is the only consumption format. Because when we think about Indian audiences, especially in vernacular, where a lot of the growth is, it's all people who have varying degrees of literacy. So some people actually can't read or write. Even how we define literacy in this country is you can read and write your name. That's not enough to go consume large amounts of content. So video can be the only format for them. From a publisher perspective, there are several challenges to creating video. First of all, video is incredibly expensive to create. Now, when we are in the news category, we look at the temporality of news, and also the fact that a lot of brands don't want to get associated with blood, gore, sex, or violence, and so that reduces the monetizability of it. But that being said, we are really approaching video as VCs approach funding startups now. So we are looking at news as a bedrock category for us, but we are going across categories, including lifestyle, including other categories. And when we are looking at it, we are really looking at, a few videos are going to be complete broad blockbusters. Some are going to be, okay and mediocre, and large numbers are probably not going to work as well with audiences. But in order to truly get the blockbusters, we need to go fund it more broadly.
And video will be good money?
I truly think so. Like, first of all, I think from the perspective of brands, and I think they've got a very legitimate concern there, we need to get to high quality and we need to get to real metrics. This whole nonsense around autoplay videos of 3-second consumption is not something that's useful for anybody in terms of engagement. So we are moving towards real metrics there. But I truly believe that video is going to be, very big because consumers are engaging with it. We have a multi-channel network on YouTube, for example, which has, a few billion video views every month, and we see it, and it's happening across languages.
And it's all vernacular.
And it's all vernacular. For us, it's not, that content is not English content or Hindi content. It's like Punjabi and Bhojpuri and Haryanvi, and we recently we made a foray into Gujarati as well.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. That was wonderful. My first guest today is Gaurav Mehta, Chief Marketing Officer, GirnarSoft, an analytics and research-driven marketer. Gaurav made it to the Impact 40 Under 40 list in 2018. In 2015, he was honored with the title of Marketeer of the Year at Exchange for Media's Indian Marketing Awards. Welcome to HT, Gaurav. It's a good way to start off. Can brands really be built with video on the internet, especially when the screen is this small?
Pleasure to be here, Amit. Thanks for inviting me. So my perspectives, I've been in digital businesses for the past 11 years. Yahoo, OLX, and now Girnar, which is Car Dekho, Bike Dekho, Zig Wheels. So my perspectives are mostly going to come from a digital business perspective. So I'll maybe just give a flavor of what my previous job was all about at OLX. People have told me that I invested a lot of media in offline marketing to brand build OLX, and I think that's an accusation that sticks. I did favor a lot of offline media to brand build for OLX, and I think while there was a curiosity about like what are the other channels, but all the experiments or all the initiatives that we were taking apart from offline were not resulting into too much of traction and so on and so forth. But I think during the final phases of my stay at OLX, which was around 2016, the whole year, we started to see these green shoot metrics starting to pop up. Like if I were to just talk about brand marketing metrics like top of mind awareness, aided brand recall, and so on and so forth, we just put them over on some of the digital metrics that are really important for us. Things like brand searches happening, direct traffic, organic app installs, and so on and so forth. These were the parallels in digital brand matrix that were giving us an idea of how our brand strength or brand building is happening in the digital business sphere. Fast track that to my stint over here at GirnarSoft. We are an auto publisher. We produce a lot of content for people who are buying a two-wheeler, four-wheeler, and so on and so forth. And this is where the fun started to happen. A lot of our effort is into video content. And I don't use the word content just like that. Long format ads are not content. Content is an editorial practice. So maybe my recent examples or initiatives are more about how editorial practices helped in brand building. The brand building fundamentals did not change. You still have to get your positioning right. You still have to talk to the relevant audiences. You still have to make sure that your proposition is the one that addresses a real-life user problem for the audience you intend to serve. Those things didn't change, but the way you were talking to them, the way you were conversing with them changed because of video. Let me give you an example, like Car Dekho, which is one of our sites under Girnar, gets about 38 million unique users on the site. Sorry, as a group, we get 38 million. Car Dekho gets about 22 odd million unique users on the site. Our YouTube channels between Car Dekho, Zig Wheels, and Power Drift, which is what we recently acquired, is around 1.7 million subscribers strong on YouTube. That's a fairly big traction for a category like auto. For the past 1 year, what we did from an editorial perspective was bifurcate what Car Dekho stood for, bifurcate what Zig Wheels stood for, which is an essential of a brand building template. Car Dekho became a car buyer site, and Zig Wheels became an expert enthusiast site altogether. So we made sure that our compartmentalization was fairly sacrosanct. We let go of a lot of small or real-time advantages to make sure that we were going after getting consumers' mindshare. One of the biggest things that we saw in the past 12 months is we saw our direct traffic going up by 100%, more than 100%. We saw organic app installs growing by almost 40%. And our brand searches went up by almost 30%. Now, if you look at all these things from a brand building traditional framework or matrix perspective, these are all pointing towards gaining mindshare. Because the person is saying car dekho, on-road price, ABC car, that tells that he's only favoring me and not like depending on Google to like give the information. Sure. So I'm delinking intermediaries between me and my consumer, which is a good indicator of how strong your brand is or how much they relate with your brand. So that is something that is only feasible because of our video content strategy. 30 people who are manning the editorial at Car Dekho Zig Wheels and about 45 at Power Drift. And their whole objective is to make sure that they cater to a very real-life consumer need through video. And I was just talking to some of my colleagues over here. They are a lot of auto colleagues. And it's quite interesting. Whenever a launch happens, our editorial staff is making a lot of like video content around the same, about launch, about how does it compare with other cars in the same segment. And we see that people start to favor that particular content much more, directly bypassing any intermediaries and so on and so forth. So at some point, they know that if I have to buy a car, or if I'm a motorhead who wants his daily fix of auto content, this is the place I go to. Sure. And in my experience, I'm like at Girnar, that has been driven only and only by very strict editorial policies, which are centered around like making video the primary mode of communication or tie to the consumers.
Wonderful. Tell me branded content, because you're a site that clearly elicits some amount of trust when it comes to people who are researching cars or automobiles or two-wheelers. Working with brands in those sectors and creating content sometimes for those brands. Is that part of the strategy, and how do you keep a wall between your own editorial pieces and what branded sort of content would look like?
So Ramit, we are a little bit lucky as a group. We have different content sites. Like Car Dekho, as I said, is for car buyers. Zig Wheels is auto enthusiast. Bike Dekho is a bike buyer. And Power Drift is actually, if I can just say, India's Top Gear. It's an edutainment content practice. We make sure that our branded content never goes beyond any editorial policy that we are setting in play. Because I think that's where the brand equity starts to get distorted. Even if we are doing a branded content play on, say, I'll give you an example, Power Drift. There was an EICMA show in Europe recently, and Michelin was our partner. Michelin was good enough to realize that they don't need to be like visible on each and every frame, but they have to just like make sure that this content which nobody else is covering, if they are like a partner in the truest sense, then they will get a lot of traction. Sure. And I think over the course of 15 days, more than like 8 million views were generated on that piece of content through different series of episodes. You can like just do the maths of like 10 minutes episode each and so on and so forth. So that's how I look at it.
Any questions, guys?
Over the last 10, 15 years, consumers' touch points with the way they consume content in general have changed quite a bit, right? And when you think about an experiential product, which you have to touch and feel and experience to some extent like a car buying process, now that has evolved a lot, over the last 10, 15 years, because consumers are consuming content in different ways. So how are you looking at video as a way of storytelling with this changed customer journey compared to what people were doing 10, 15 years back?
Sure. Good question. I think if we just go back like 5, 6 years also, car buying was a fairly longish journey, like 4 to 6 months. From the time you start to like think about buying a car to the point you buy a car. A lot of those 4 to 6 months were actually going in physically, like looking at a car in the showroom and so on and so forth. Car buying is still a very familial decision, right? You would like your wife to go and like your kids to go with you, maybe some friends and all. And that's not always feasible. Living in a country like India where climate conditions are also not like, always in your favor, a lot of those going to the showrooms were not always like feasible, which is where I think a lot of like content play, especially video, came to the consumer's rescue. Through our analytics, we have seen that the car buying journey has gone to about 3 months odd now. So it's almost like 60% of what it used to be. Personal example, I bought a car last year for my dad, and I didn't drive the car. Nor did my dad. I might be not a good example because of the sector that I work in, but if I just go back to that example and just hark over, there was no risk in my mind about buying the car that I did because of so much research done through video. I actually knew how the car looked like. Through other tools, obviously, I understood what the car would perform like. And I hear you about like the touch and feel. I think that's never going to go away, but it's had reduced quite a lot. I think video has like really brought the cars right to your mobile phones. And if you get your editorial practices right, then you, so between the three sides, car, deco, zig, and power drift, we have an entertain, enable, and educate. These are the three guidances that like kind of dictate the way our content is made. So if I think within the ecosystem, we are able to answer pretty much each and every question that a consumer might have through video, through these three things.
Excellent. So you're basically saying it's the buying process is halved in terms of the time taken, and video has a huge role to play in how to communicate the vision. Great. Thank you so much.
We'll take one more from Sudeep, and then we'll.
Gaurav, you talked about entertain, enable, and educate. How are you intertwining the three?
Great question, Sudeep. So at heart, we still didn't think that we are a tech company, not an auto company. So we have a proprietary technology called Connector, which is a personalization tool. So suppose if Sudeep is coming to buy a car on, say, Zig wheels, if he lands on Zig wheels, that's your first port of call. Through analytics, I know there are 8 or 9 very specific touch points in a person's car buying journey, and they're sequential in nature. You do A, then after a few days, you'll do B, and then C, and then D, and so on and so forth, till the time you buy that car. Through Connector, we actually sew this journey together in the Girnar ecosystem. So if you're consuming, say, a video on Zig wheels, which is, say, about first look of a car that has just launched, or the expert review on that car, if you go to Car Deco, maybe you'll see the 3rd piece of content, or the 4th piece of content when you're on the platform. If you've signed up for alerts, then you'll actually get that in your push messages or through our apps and so on and so forth. So we try and make sure that each and every interaction with Girnar properties is sequential in nature and is going to add value to you. So between these three, suppose now you're getting to the decision-making stage. Now I have to like help you understand which is the right car for you. I personally feel there's no wrong car anymore. There's no bad car anymore. There's always a right car for every person depending on the need. So we'll try and really give you the content to make your decision really sync. And some of the content towards the last part, which is around discounts, deals, how to get a great deal, and so on and so forth, will come in when you're just about to buy the car. Connector kind of powers this whole journey for the consumer and stitches together in sequential manner. And which is why I think interactions are much more fruitful across the Girnar ecosystem now.
Lovely. That's an incredible case study for an enabler brand, Marketing 101, and how to manage a portfolio. Thank you so much. You were wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
My next guest, Anjali, has 26 years of experience in areas spanning revenue, marketing, sales, and customer experience. Under her aegis, Aviva India has built a suite of B2B and B2C online assets that are shaping its vision of becoming a digital-first insurance provider. Anjali, according to a study conducted by eMarketer, the average time consumed spent on the mobile phone watching videos increased by a minute every day between 2012 and 2016. Now, that's not the interesting fact. The interesting fact is that in the same time, the average time spent watching TV dropped by an equivalent amount, maybe more. So I'm conjecturing that people are actually shifting from what we called the small screen as children to what is now really the small screen. Are smartphones taking over the world, and are they taking over the television world? We leave it to you from a brand point of view to tell us what's really happening and how the new age of mobile phones is impacting video and brands.
So thanks for having me here. And you're right that earlier the source of video for people was television. And we've grown up all the years on that stodgy little set, which was 25 inches round tube. And we've spent 3 hours, 4 hours a day consuming video on that. And that was our primary source of entertainment, at least in India. And in the last 5 or 10 years, all of that has completely changed. Whilst that piece of hardware has become sleek, smart, big panel, 60 inches, etc. But ironically, the time being spent on that has sharply come down. And most of it is shifted to 6 inches. At best, maybe 10 inches, which is our tablets. And it's kind of surprising that the hardware and the software are kind of going in two different directions. Clearly, there's a trend here in consumer viewership and content consumption, which marketeers cannot overlook. Because at the end of the day, it's our job as marketeers to view consumer trends, and the marketing dollar really follows where the consumer trends go.
Absolutely.
So I'll try and put some context to it. What really is going on here? Clearly, we've talked about the smartphone reach in the country, which is 350 million. If you compare that with television, which is 197 million homes, and that's a home product, not individual.
And single TV households.
Yeah, TV households. And you multiply that with the factor of 5, number of people, you still get a reach of about 1 billion, which is unbeatable. Even today, if you're an FMCG brand, you can't steer away from that kind of reach that it gives you. However, a lot of us are not FMCG brands, right? And that's where the story changes. And that's where, and even for FMCG brands, you don't really need to say everything to everybody. You kind of segment your market and you figure out what to say to whom. Sure. Sometimes even the same product has different propositions and different need sets for different people. And so the storytelling would completely change. And that's where I think this 350 million has become an extremely potent base of consumers to talk to in a very easy reach mechanism using the same power of video and audiovisual communication, which we thought had given wings to our brands, right, beyond text and photo. So what's happening? We all know that the cost of data has come down to what, 1/3 of what it was just 3 years back. We're the cheapest data in the world. The consumption's grown some 25 times in these 3 years. Yes, we're consuming video like we never ever before did. Facebook, I think, streams over 100 million videos every day. On Twitter, they say if you have a tweet with a photo, it has 6x times probability of being retweeted than just a text. YouTube's grown 100% in 2 years. WhatsApp has penetrated our lives with 200 million people already, and we know that bulk of that is video. Is a sharing mechanism. It's what the political parties are doing. It's creating opinions. It's creating communities, all using the power of video. So yes, videos completely permeated our lives through that small television set and access. I think it's not the size. It's not the impact. It's the convenience. It's the power in my hands to view what I want to view when I want to view. And that brings also the whole new generation that's taking to OTT. Briefly, you talked about it, Rajiv, but really, at least in the metros and large towns, all of us would have a subscription or two to one or two of the OTT platforms, whether it's Netflix, Amazon, Hotstar, or, I mean, it's a long list now. I can't even start to name them. But very interestingly, they started with freemium models, got us all hooked. And now, the subscription base has started. And that's the way, I think, directionally we are all going. And it's for us to spot the trend and say, some estimates say that in a couple of years, that market will have, say, I think it's already 125 million people on OTT. And maybe in 2 years, it's going to be about 350 million and maybe doing revenues of upwards of 5,000 crores. If that's where it's headed, can we ignore that? So is the smartphone overtaking the television? I really don't think there's, question there. Yes, that's a sure trend. What does it mean for us as marketeers? We all want to tell stories, right? And that's what we want to take out to people. I think it gives us the power to tell stories, tell more stories, because when you produce for digital and digital alone, you spend lesser. your media costs are lower. You can segment and tell stories differently. I'll take an example from my own industry. When we sell, say, an endowment product, it could mean income for your parents, retired parents. It could mean pocket money for your child. It could mean, education for your son. And those are different stories and different propositions, even though the product remains the same. And we can tell all of those stories separately by the power of the medium, which is targeting, and yet not lose the essence of the audio-visual impact. And I think that's one, and I think that nobody can do away with. Certainly more ROI, and certainly more engaging. Yeah. So I think that is the power that we have today as marketeers.
So in the spirit of trend spotting, clearly one thing that's going to happen is that the screens are going to converge and the internet is going to make sure that that big screen and the small screen all become sort of connected and one. But other than that, or in light of that, what is the future of video from where you stand?
I think the trends tell a story. There is no crystal ball that we can gaze at, but I think we can just make guesstimates. If you're talking about the future, which is 2019, it's 30 days from now, I think we can be fairly sure of what we're looking at.
I hope.
So 2019, 2020, with a fair degree of certainty that yes, this trend will continue and we'll see minor shifts. Is TV going away? No, it's not. It's still double the size of digital and still growing between 7 and 10%. So, sustaining and growing. However, if the future is 2025, 2030, then the story could be completely different. We've seen huge disruptive forces at play in category after category, industry after industry, completely changing the shape of things, the way people consume content or anything else. And that can have huge impact, not just on content producers, but on distributors, on hardware, on software, on the entire value chain. And who knows what it might mean a few years from now. It doesn't even need to be too far ahead.
Yeah, and people are probably going to transact online as well. So the chain is going to be complete.
Artificial intelligence. You merge artificial intelligence with the power of video, and you're looking at a future which I'm not even sure we can fathom all of it sitting on this chair today, but I'm sure it's certainly going to be an interesting time to look out for. And
wonderful. Is there any other questions?
You talked about digital marketing being very heavily ROI driven. Can video be an entry point to your customer journey? Is there anything that you guys have, that Aviva has done, to...
Okay, fabulous. And just before we started, we were talking about a case study which we worked with HT. So in life insurance, one of the key concerns is financial literacy of the nation, because people are not very comfortable taking financial decisions, still don't understand jargon. Part of it is because we've also created a very complex environment and therefore people steer away from it. The other issue that we've created, again, it's an industry issue, is that we kind of are guilty of not insuring women enough, because insurance is dependent upon the financial value. And so we usually ask for income document proof and say, okay, this is the kind of insurance that you can take from us, or the value of protection that I would give you. Talk about housewives. There is no salary or income document to show. And we realized that, does that mean that the value of that woman is lesser? And that's the premise we came to HT with, and we actually worked on a whole series of videos, which essentially brought out the value of a woman and why she needs insurance, because the value she brings to her family is so much more than we fathom, and especially coming from the industry who's probably not been fair. And I'm happy to share, when you talked about ROIs, we ran season 1, which was essentially about just awareness and getting women to open up, and really men looking at saying, oh really, I didn't know she did all of that, and oh my God, there's so much that she does that I'm not even aware of, which is really bringing out her worth. And another series of episodes where we talked about this woman really finding her comfort in her skin and an identity to say, it's not so difficult to take financial decisions. I know what I'm doing, I'm confident, I can take my call, and I can plan for myself. It's very early days, but what we're doing is constantly measuring that against the number of the gender ratios on which we are insuring people, and we're starting to see a shift. And if that kind of result can actually come through just video awareness, I think that would be good ROI.
So that's not just a great example of brand building, it's a great example of content economics.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. That was lovely.
Pleasure. Thanks.
My next guest is Tarun Garg, Executive Director Marketing and Logistics at Maruti Suzuki India. Tarun joined Maruti Suzuki as a management trainee in 1994 and has since gone on to lead diverse projects in the company. Some of these include Arena and True Value, besides successful model launches such as Swift, Desire, Brezza, Ertiga, S-Cross, and the Ciaz. Tarun, it's great to have you here. The one thing I can certainly say about the new millennial internet user is they're smarter than their predecessors. And in many ways more discerning, and they're more capable of deciding what they want to see and how much of what they want to believe. In the light of that, how does video impact brand journey on the internet, which is, I'm assuming, part of the brand journey when it comes to buying cars or in the auto sector? Tarun.
Thank you, Ramit. It's a pleasure to be here. And yes, you're right. Actually, customers have always been at the center of whatever Maruti Suzuki has been doing for the past 30 plus years. So today's customer definitely is much more evolved. He's very different, and he is also much smarter, which means that he knows he can discern between something which is good for me or maybe something which is maybe good for everybody. And this is where Maruti's strategy come into fore. So if I see from a Maruti's perspective, what we have seen is today almost 43% customers see an online video before they buy a car.
Wow.
So 43%. But at the same time, we also understand that there's a whole lot of videos going around. And we are not really competing only in the auto category. We're competing with all categories, because it's more about how much of a customer time you can get. And so we need, for these smart customers, we also need smart videos. And what does a smart video mean? So smart video means that, yes, okay, this customer will not tolerate something, okay, this content was made for TV, let me do some jugglery and make it a digital. No. I think it has to be primarily targeted at the digital audience. And I'll give you an example. About a year back, we had those 2 or 3 real-time videos for the Ertiga, and where we shot a group of friends on a journey. And and in fact, it was a very ironical kind of an ad where we said that maybe you can enjoy offline as much as you can do online, and it really created a lot of excitement amongst the online viewers. So that was one very good example of what we could do. Second, these customers are also very different. Like maybe a super carry commercial customer will be very different from an Nexa customer. So there we made some WhatsApp videos for some super carry customers in tier 2 and tier 3 towns, where again we got some very good response because they were primarily targeted at them. The third aspect which we talked about was conventional marketing was always about this aspect ratio of 16:9, which is basically okay. Then we moved to Facebook and Insta, where we said, okay, it has to be a square. And now we are moving to vertical videos where the whole screen has to be covered. And we don't want the customer to really keep on doing his mobile phone like this and this, So it has to be really tuned in so that it's very convenient for him and he can get the full advantage of his mobile screen. I think that again is extremely important. The last aspect in this is that like celebrities. A TV celebrity, a customer who's watching TV, for him a celebrity will be very different from a customer who's watching an online video. And when we did our Vitara Glam Bam, campaign, we used some online celebrities, and it was a very successful campaign again. And customers really lapped it up because they could relate and engage much more with these celebrities. The other thing which these customers are doing is, this thumb stopping, because everybody is scrolling on the. So how do you ensure that where does the thumb stop? And this is where, we use this 3D videos for our Nexa Blue campaign. And we were able to really ensure that the thumb stops at the right place and the customer could get that kind of an immersive experience. We must understand that when somebody is watching a video and that too at such a close, space, then he needs to really, he's really wanting to engage with you. the content has to be exciting enough for him to engage. Other bit here is, there are still many customers who are, maybe first timers or still getting into digital. Anjali, of course, gave us a lot of figures about, how things are changing and how many customers are really at. So there is a great diversity in somebody who's new to internet and somebody who's very experienced. So how are we treating those first timers is also something very important. And that is where, what we have done in our showrooms also is that when a customer walks into a showroom, we have those screens where a customer who is even a first timer to online space can actually engage very well. We call it a product vision video. He can really, it's very, very convenient. And maybe you have seen the ad on the television also, and he can make changes, he can personalize his car, because we feel as a marketer, it is our responsibility also to educate these customers and also have an offline-online integration kind of a thing, which can really help us to, get the trust of the customer. And let me tell you, customer, again, I'll reiterate, is really he can really discern. We did a study to see, what kind of content customer really trusts. And what we found out was that 70% of the customers want to watch online videos which are made by OEMs, professional videos made by OEMs. So they know, yes, this is from an authentic source, this is a source which I can trust, and this is a source on which I can make a decision.
Wonderful. From showstoppers to page turners to thumb stopping, we found a buzzword today in the new age, and vertical videos for WhatsApp, smart videos that go right across the customer journey, truly a sign of a brand that is contemporary and modern and with the age. Thank you for that. Are there any questions?
Hi, I'm Aashish from ixigo. I love your clarity. Thank you very much. The question I had is that, again, as Anjali shared, the percentage of the consumption on mobile is increasing, digital is increasing, TV is going down, but have the budgets also moved that way? Because last year and year before, it was like, we love digital, but paisa to TV pe kharchenge. So I just want your feedback, because, I've seen Maruti growing up, right? So it's been in front of my screens all the time. So, yeah. I
would not let out my trade secrets, but let me tell you, yes, digital is, as a percentage, has really gone up. I would hold my cards to my chest, but yes, big time. And it's not only saying this, yes, it is actually making a huge mark. And one more thing I like to say, not only OEMs, but our dealers also. So this thing is really spreading. Our dealers are now really investing into digital big time. And yes, you can see the balance sheets of Google's and Facebook to see how digital is really moving and where is the dollar going.
Yeah. I think WhatsApp will be happy to know that one of the most trusted brands in the country actually uses WhatsApp, as a medium to customize for. Sorry, any other questions?
So, as you were saying, consumers today have a lot of different choices in how they consume content. We see ourselves as storytellers, but a lot of people can tell your stories. How do you decide between what's a trusted and authenticated way of telling your stories versus, other channels?
Look, like I said, this customer is slightly impatient and he has a lot of choice. So we have to make sure that the story is engaging enough and it is of the right duration. You make a story which is 20 minutes, no, I think that's a big no. So it has to be probably the right timing. There's no, we can't say, okay, it has to be 120 seconds or 180 seconds. So duration is very important. Engagement is very important. That connect is very important. And that is where, you have to come in. The second aspect is, today it is very easy to measure. I think the conventional marketing, always the issue was about measurement. Okay, you show an ad, even if it is running today, I don't know how many people are actually watching TV, but also doing so many other things. Here on a mobile phone, you can really see, yes, if the customer is on a mobile phone, he's doing a click, so very easy to really monitor. And we keep on doing these kind of researches so that we know, okay, which is the content which is being liked by the customer, which is the content which is not so much liked by the customer, and the changing is very easy now. So you can have, 5 various, this thing, you can test it out and then go with the best.
Yeah, just, traditional media and digital, have you made any effort or have you been able to integrate the metric either at a brand level or a disposition level or even at the level of behavior? Have you found any way to integrate the metric that you track across mediums?
Look, I think each medium has a role to play. I think we should not really get carried away and say, yes, television is doing this, print is going this way, and everything is digital. No. As far as I am concerned, as a marketer, I think every medium has a very important role to play. Television, please don't undermine the television. India still, the reach. If you want to get a reach very fast, I think nothing better than the television. So not for a moment we get carried away that yes, you just have to shift. It's not a 0-1 game. Like every medium has a role to play, and that is where yes, things are changing. So we have to keep on evolving, and we'll see how it goes in the future.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was lovely.
Thank you, Nanda.
My next guest, Sumeet, has over 19 years of experience in marketing, brand management, and public relations. At InfoEdge, she's been the architect of several effective campaigns, some of them my favorites, including the Hari Sadhu ad for Naukri.com and the Be Found ad for Jeevansathi.com. It's a pleasure to have you here, Sumeet. You've done a lot of work with video across mediums. So let's talk a little bit about the craft and the metric. Brass tacks question: how long should these videos be? What should they look like? What's the secret recipe of making a video work on the mobile phone? And more importantly, what's the engagement metric, or what's the metric that you study when you actually conceive of this video or run a campaign online?
Well, thanks for having me here, and thanks. It's a very interesting question. We've heard lovely things about how important video is, and how as marketers, we can't, as product managers or marketers, we can't really avoid video any longer. I think an important thing is for all of us to have a creative lens strategy, right? We all spoke about how we're using videos for different customer journeys, for different objectives of advertising. And this whole hype about the only video that works on YouTube is now the bumper video, and a lot of brand managers now talking to their agencies to create these 6-seconders, I don't think just micro ads will work, right? We had some interesting stories on how videos have even helped brand building, and Car Dekho is an example of that. I think as marketers, what we need to be very, very cautious of is what are we using the video for? So while Tarun just said you can't really go and use maybe a 20-minuter or a 30-minuter, micro ads don't always work. So at least at InfoEdge, we've of course got different brands in different spaces. So in a Jeevansathi kind of a brand where it is very personal, more in the relationship and emotional space, we've seen people are a little more tolerant about, they want a story, they want to connect. So I personally, as a marketer, feel all of us, as Anjali said, are consuming so much of OTT, and the reason I consume Netflix is because I love binge watching, So the idea is, can we watch a lot of episodes together, Can you finish season 1? You don't have to wait for one episode every day. And therefore, I think as a consumer, as long as your story is interesting and content is good, you would be okay to spend time on it. And when it comes to advertising, I think micro ads work more with millennials when they're on the move. We've done a lot of research because we do a lot of video. And we've realized that when you're in transit, in commute, your attention spans are lower. And shorter formats really work. Not necessarily, you're not very, very immersive when you're in that metro or the local train, because there are other things that are also kind of grabbing your attention. Versus when I'm sitting back at home, and by choice wanting to then watch a video, I'm far more immersive. And a lot of our studies have shown, therefore, that different kind of messaging and different kind of lengths, depending on not only what platform the person is consuming, but also when during the day the person is consuming and which action kind of helps. So I think we need to be careful of the video lengths, but not just 6-seconders or 10-seconders work. I think good stories told in a couple of minutes, like Tarun just shared with us, also play an important role. And we should not forget that content and storytelling will always follow the same principles of brand building. Just because it's digital, it doesn't mean that you just put something there and make, I've seen a lot of those brake bumpers that, excuse me, I say this, but seem like hoardings with GIF. I mean, they're not really.
Hoardings with GIF.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I kind of feel when I look at them. So When it comes to metric, ours is an online company. So, you asked Tarun about, do you have a uniform metric where you measure all sorts of advertising that you do? It's slightly more easier for us because being online, what we've done, and we're very careful about that, is we've kept the same metrics to measure irrespective what we use in the marketing mix. So if in the case of 99 acres, what we want to see is have queries gone up or not, In the case of Naukri, we would maybe look at applies or CVs. It's the same metric when we use video or we do TV, So for us, because it's online, it's easier to measure. We do a lot of qualitative studies, but we do them more for research to refine our own messaging rather than actually carry that as a metric, So the metrics for us remain the same.
Interesting, very interesting. Other than the fact that I love how all our episodes actually converge back into marketing 101 because the fundamentals never change.
They don't change, yeah.
And we found a second buzzword for today, which is billboards that are GIF. Questions? Anybody?
Hey, Sumeet, very interesting perspectives. There's a lot of complexity in what you just spoke, and there, from a time perspective, you have different outputs. From a brand perspective, you have different outputs. How do you, as a brand custodian or CMO for InfoEdge, make a playbook for this? Because it's not you who are executing. There are like 30 other people who are executing this with you. So how do you make a common knowledge pool that those 30 others also follow and execute?
I think two things we've done is, I'm going to take the example of our real estate site, which is where we use a lot of videos in the customer journey as well. Because pretty much like your vertical, 80% of the people who now in both urban, I would say tier 1 and tier 2 towns are going to rent or buy, actually go through something online. Not a video necessarily, but do some research online when it comes to property. And what we realized was that when we started going to consumers this is about 7-8 years ago, a lot of consumers said, I don't want to just see the inside of a house. Because that's naturally the video that a person would put up, because it's something that takes a lot of, it's a big value purchase. Most people actually in the country buy one house, and therefore they will always go and visit that place. We cannot expect that people will just buy, you might have the best VR and the best AR and the best video, but people will go and visit a place and look at it. A lot of people said, when I go and visit, the broker actually doesn't show me the locality. Or he doesn't show me things that I actually should see, and a lot of times I get to know them once I've actually bought my house or I've shifted on rent. There was a nala piche, but I went in the evening and saw it, so I didn't see it. So we as a brand invested, and videos are expensive, to create, but we invested because it was a very important part in the customer journey and started creating beyond the house locality videos, right? So I think what we've done is for different segments and different, objectives, we've kind of created, I won't say we've created a playbook. Actually, we're pretty flexible. We're not too much into brand books, and we don't let the agencies twist us into this is the way only you will do something. We kind of keep that agility and, the startup kind of mindset still there. We do things, we fail. We're not very hung up on it has to be this way, that way. We allow a lot of flexibility. But we do know that if you're talking to millennials for jobs, freshers, then this is what generally works. But we've got there because we've kind of experimented with a lot of formats, because we've seen what's happened to our metrics, because there's a lot of UI and research gone in. We kind of now know that this is what works with these segments. So we don't really have a standardized book per se. I'm sure that will be tough to do. We've just kind of kept it agile and free.
So Harish Sadhu worked in the age of television.
Yes.
It was slightly before the social revolution. And it went a long way in building the brand. I still remember Harish Sadhu. Is there a Harish Sadhu equivalent on the internet that you've found yet, or you're in the process of discovering that in internet parlance will viral and build brand?
Well, I think the internet is actually the opposite, because it gives us the flexibility to do so much different messaging. Like we just heard from Anjali also, you kind of, for the same product, have the ability to create messages for so many different segments differently. So I think it would go anti-internet and video if we wanted to create just one particular thing. There are themes that work, yes, but we kind of take video as it gives us the flexibility to do so much different messaging. So yes, there's no one Hari Sadhu there, you know.
Any other questions?
Yes. What I found interesting in one of the things you said is that in your Naukri.com, in that business, you are able to actually get more people to apply, which means that it's a very sharp ROI metric that video is able to deliver. Can you share some more on how that's working and how you're actually able to do that?
So I think there are 2-3 things how we've kind of done it. One was this whole revolution that Jio brought to the country, and that's why I think we're all discussing video, which was somewhere around September, October 2016, where we saw traffic suddenly shooting up through the mobile. And, you know, we were just wondering who's coming, what's happening. And very soon we realized that this traffic was coming and not engaging. Being online, a lot of metrics that we track are also what is the time spent, etc. You know. When we went deeper in, we realized that a lot of traffic that we were getting was not traffic that we who necessarily actually knew how to use online. You know. So you started getting an influx of people who were 12th pass. Yeah. Naukri is actually white collar, works for graduates and above. So you know, we don't have hyper local jobs, etc. And so when we started, and traffic was coming, time spent metrics were going down, and we were wondering what's happening. And so we realized where is this coming from and what kind of audience is this? And then we started some educational videos. For example, even simple things on product usage. So one, we innovated the product for them. We had complex CV forms where you had to put key skills and projects, and then there was this traffic who maybe would not understand this. So that's one piece, you know, on segmentation and then sending something to them, and then they would know what you need to do is you need to search, how do you use a filter or a cluster, which is more product usage, the how-tos. And the other thing is whenever you do something, it creates a little bit of top of mind because awareness is very high for Naukri. We already have about 78% market share. So, you know, with top of mind, it kind of brings people back to the site, which then results into various things. You know, a lot of people who've registered earlier come back whenever you do something interesting. And then that, of course, if they find a relevant job, should translate into an apply. Yeah. So that's how we use it.
Very interesting because lots of research in the past and with categories that can't track disposition to behavior, top of mind has often been a surrogate for disposition. Because if you're thinking about it, there's a possibility that you're disposed one way or the other. Very interesting. Thank you so much. That was lovely.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
My next guest, Elizabeth, is an alumnus of NMIMS Mumbai. She started her career with Wipro Infotech, where she was a senior sales executive, shifted to JWT India, where she handled major clients like McDowell's, Citibank and Ponds. Today, she is the Executive Vice President Marketing of Kotak Mahindra Bank. Welcome to HT, Elizabeth.
Pleasure to be here.
You know, everybody wants to do video. Video is the new thing. And there's a lot of herd mentality behind it as well, where many of us following it blindly, many people not worrying about the right metric, the right craft. Just do video is the new mantra. And that happens to every new thing that sort of explodes. So that's one thing that we'd love for you to decipher for us. What is the do's and don'ts in not following the herd and doing video right? The other question that I would love for you to sort of deal with is brand safety. Because as a bank, brand safety is clearly critical, and I'm sure so is education. So, you know, how to get smarter and how to deal with brand safety. Let's start off with those.
I think I'll start with the fact that the very nice question that you've asked is video is a very powerful trend. Everybody's talking about it. But whether we should be following it blindly and what are we supposed to be worried about? I think Sumeet covered a little bit of it, but I'll go into some more depth on that subject of moment marketing, which is very, very interesting. And it's basically what she or he, the consumer, does during the day and how video fits into that. And the consumer and everybody is supposed to be looking at their phone 150 times in a day. And that's the average. The 3-hour metric has been, I think, discussed by all of you, so I won't repeat that. But that 150 times is what is our opportunity as marketeers. And apparently 30% of that goes into quick moments, what they call as quick moments. And the quick moment is when I'm just checking WhatsApp, I'm just checking the email. Is there anything urgent or difficult which I need to deal with? Or that, that one moment of which is a high intent search. And they say that quick moment cannot be interrupted with video. So it's a very important input for us. What is the other moment? The other moment is what they call mobile prime time now. And it's different for different people. So salaried people or people going to work are essentially, it's their morning travel time and their evening travel time. And they also say that the evening travel time is better than the morning travel time because a little more relaxed, you're finished with a bunch of your work and you're open to watching video. So it's probably very important to understand that, where can we fit video into a consumer's life. The third kind of time that's being spoken about is the dual screen time, which is in the evenings. I'm watching Netflix or television and I'm also looking at the phone. They say that after the prime time, mobile prime time, the dual screen time is most amenable for people to watch video. So I think some of these things change when it's women. They are busy with family and work at home. And their afternoon time is probably when they are most amenable to video because that is their mobile prime time. So we need to look at mobile prime time segment-wise and see where, if it is a children's product, they probably best mobile prime time is after school. So some of these things I think are going to be very, very important for us as marketeers while we actually look at the usage of video. The second most worrying thing is attention spans. And I don't think enough can be said about attention spans. We used to joke as people that you have the attention span of a goldfish, which is 9 seconds. But apparently goldfish are joking about us these days, saying that human beings, you have the attention span of a human being. And it's really that true. So again, the lens is not very, I struggle with that back at work because if it's performance marketing where I have sharp, what's it called, ROI metrics, which on some of our online products, and Sumeet spoke a little bit about that, and so did Anjali. There, we really have to get everything in 6 and 10 seconds, and my performance team will say, anything longer than that, we will really not do our job, and we won't risk video as a format. So that's the other kind of thing that I hear from my performance from the performance team. Whereas the brand team is a little more relaxed and open about time, and we have a story to tell, and if we get away in 6 seconds, we have really no metric to move. So it's a very fine balance. If I took the extreme of performance and I took the other extreme of brand, I think the marketer has a fairly good challenge with the goldfish principle. How do I fit in content that delivers to these very important objectives within that given time, given the consumer has no time for me. So that's yeah.
We can take a question.
Great insights, Elizabeth. Thank you. I think you belong to an industry where enablement and education is rather more important than entertainment, specifically talking about videos. Because in a country like India, a lot of consumers are still not aware about the risks and perils of phishing, for example, minus the urban audience, for example. Now, what's your perspective on those kind of a video content? Is there something that you would want to advise the fraternity at large? That what could be the strategy around that one?
I think this question we get asked a lot, and where there is money, there will be fraud, and that's the bane of for banking if there is. And I think as marketers, we are very conscious of that. We do mailers, SMSs, and videos because we know that people have different attention spans and different kind of time. And I must share that the recent safe banking videos which we've done on precisely what you're saying, because it's very important that people understand that banks do not ask you for personal information. They do not ask you for personal information on any social or indirect platform. And that is something that we've gone out and done in the safe banking videos, and the engagement rates are higher than what we would have in any other kind of content that we've ever done. So it's very clear that if you give consumers what they really need and what they really want or they're worried about, they will consume it, and they will put all your metrics, they will change the dynamics of all your metrics and your measurement that you normally do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was lovely.
Thank you.
My next guest is Sudeep Narayan, Director PR and Corporate Communication, Volvo Cars India. At Volvo Cars, Sudeep has undertaken numerous initiatives pertaining to the brand's philosophy of designed around you. Some of these include partnerships with Aircell's Chennai Open, the Aircell Chennai Open, the Avantha Masters, and Lakme Fashion Week. Recently, Sudeep was responsible for the launch of Volvo Lounge at IGIA's T3 domestic terminal. Sudeep today will be sharing his insight in how companies can go the extra mile while communicating with customers. And a topic that he's crafted quite beautifully is a video is worth 1 million shares, and how they're shifting from storytelling to story doing. One more buzzword for today. So
that's the fourth buzzword. Yes. Great to be here. I think a lot has been said today by the entire panelists. I'm very happy to be part of this. But I think what we need to also look at is there's one part which is storytelling. And we need to do that right. So I'll give you a couple of examples of that. So when it comes to marketing, it's very easy. A good creative idea can be catapulted into a good story. But when it comes to communication, how do you do that? So what we've tried to do is we've tried to take various social media and digital platforms for what they're good at and try to weave in the brand story there. So if I were to do a drive, I curate a drive, the teaser would be on Twitter and Instagram, the product demo would be on Facebook Live, and the review would be on YouTube. So if I look at that metric, typically magazines have a circulation of 100,000, 120,000. Our YouTube views, and we're not the biggest brands. There's Maruti, which is like millions of views. Our views are at least 2.5 lakh to 3 lakh per whatever episode that the journalists talk about us. So we take that very seriously. That's one aspect of storytelling. The other aspect of storytelling is our safety premise. So whenever there is a rollover test or a crash test, we make sure that there are all kinds of cameras, high speed, low speed, all kinds of angles, so that the content is rich. And you cannot describe a car's safety by talking about it.
Sure.
No. It has to be shown. It has to see, people have to see that it's done its job, and only a video can do that. So that's the storytelling part. And now when it comes to story doing, what we've started doing globally as well as in India, I'll give you 2 examples. The global example is Life Paint. So we tied up with a company to create a paint that is visible in the dark. And we created a video around it. And that was such a rocking success that enough products were not there in the market. The second thing is what we've done very closely in India, and it ended 2-3 weeks back only. We all talk about the air quality, the environment. Nobody's done much about it. At least car companies have not done much about it. So we went forth and did something about it. We talked to schools, we made them do DIY kits, and we captured that in a video. So what we've started doing is we started doing. And then we started capturing that rather than just talking about the brand philosophy of design around you. Wonderful. So that's one thing which has given us a lot of traction. We are still a very small luxury player, but we have started growing a lot of consideration. And Gaurav talked about considerations on the digital medium. I think a lot of consideration we need to look at also happen offline, happen with engagements and rich content created out of those engagements, which then go onto the online platform to make some kind of purchase decisions.
Excellent. We'll take a question.
Thanks, Sudeep. I'm personally a great fan of your cars. Very sturdy, great cars, good-looking cars. Related to that, videos are great when it comes to brand building. It serves that long-term purpose. But when it comes to sales or that very starting point, the zero moment of truth about customer wanting to consider and then decide about buying, do you believe that videos could be of help there? And if yes, do you track conversion matrix accordingly?
Yes, so we do that. We have a digital sales philosophy even in our showrooms, like what Tarun talked about in Maruti. And what we do is, and we do it slightly in a strategic manner. So in Punjab, we will show our Bowers & Wilkins 19-speaker video first. In South, we will show the crash test video first. So when you see that, and there is an immediate, "Arey, I did not know about this." So a lot of video content is not just consumed online, it's also consumed offline. So we need to be, as marketers, we need to be very well aware that if you do something online, and I think Elizabeth said a lovely thing about, prime time, and I think off prime time is also equally important. So we need to look at whatever touch points we have and whatever rich content we can deliver through those touch points. So it could be a WhatsApp video, for example. So whatever we do, we make sure that there is a WhatsApp video we make, and then we distribute it around.
I have one question. When are you doing a Van Damme kind video in India? Because I can't get enough, I can't get over it. Like, when will Shah Rukh Khan go?
We want the date and the time.
I mean, that was amazing, right? So I think India deserves,
Yes, of course.
Not a Van Damme, but Indian Van Damme. I don't know who that is.
I think the good part about that is there's not just the Van Damme. There are other videos that Volvo's created, which is amazing. And there, actually, you tie it to the product. See, if you're telling story, then you need to make sure that it is rooted in a product truth, right? Only then will it come to life. It may not happen in certain products like an FMCG or but for us, we're lucky that way.
I mean, those videos are about precision, right? So you need to do it in one take. Salman Khan can't do it.
I have Ramit with me.
That's a difference.
Happy to
you have
for
two
a price.
fans today.
We can talk later.
Thank you.
But
That was awesome.
But yeah.
Maybe before next brand studio.
Yeah. Thank you, Sudeep. How wonderful. Thank you. My next guest is Aashish Chopra, who's an award-winning viral video marketer. In 2018 alone, 3 of his videos clocked the highest ever engagement levels in India. He's spoken at numerous institutes, including those held at IAMAI, FICCI, ICFAI, and now HT. Recently, he was credited as the Content Marketer of the Year. Welcome, Aashish. Aashish today will spill the secrets of creating super successful videos.
Okay.
His topic, crafted by him, is how to reach millions. How simple, right?
All right.
Aashish, over to you.
Thank you, and I'm glad to be here. Waking up early in the morning is a pain, though. So, but yeah, this is amazing place to be. So, how to reach millions on shoestring budgets, or how can we reach millions now that video is is everybody's center of attention? I remember 5 years back, I made my first video which went viral. And that was like the happiest and the scariest time of my life. Happiest because I was in the video and people were recognizing me in the street. So I was in my orange Tata Nano on a black t-shirt going around. I didn't change clothes for 2 days because people were recognizing me on the street. And then it was also the scariest time of my life. Scariest because if the next video is not a hit, then I'm like a Harry Babeja of internet marketing. One hit wonder and I'm done. So I was really scared that, why did that video work? And that started my journey in obsessing about why did that video, catch the fancy of the entire world at that time. And the last 4.5 years have been obsessing about the fundamentals behind what really works and what doesn't work. Tireless experiments, there's no gyan, no philosophy, no brain farts about, oh, this should be done on video. And I'm so glad. I was having marketers orgasm sitting here. Everybody was talking about video, which was not happening last year, which was not happening the year before. The last year, the biggest trend in marketing was video. This year, the biggest trend in marketing is video. And next year, it's video in regional languages. And everybody is joining the party. When LinkedIn came on video, I'm like, the party's just begun. Because B2B content was all, this is Bob. Bob needs a product. Bob uses our product. I'm like, to hell with Bob. Like, everybody is, opening up to the idea of video. And, in India, this is the best time to be in India. A lot of my friends who are going to US and Canada, I'm like, abhi mat jao. This is the time for India. Like, millions of people are, getting enabled. People can't read or write in different languages, all sects of society. Everybody is using a mobile phone. The experience of WhatsApp and Facebook and all the digital platform is a common equalizer. You have the same version of WhatsApp experience I have. And that, to me, is a massive opportunity in India. But with that opportunity that millions of people are consuming content on smartphones and they're moving away from TV and all the stats, there are some challenges which we work with, obsess about when creating content. And the challenge is, we've already shared that, that it's a very chaotic marketplace. The news feeds are chaotic, right? Like Facebook, for example, can show you 2,000 posts every day, but if it shows you, you'll stop using Facebook. So they have this news feed algorithm. So filtering system. WhatsApp, no filtering. How many of you have groups on mute for entire year? Right? There's family group, family with, without Chachaji group. So this is so much pressure in WhatsApp. Right? But the challenge is there's so much chaos and the attention span is not there. Like you said, attention span of goldfish is 8 to 9 seconds. We work with the assumption that attention is 3 to 6 seconds. Agar 3 to 6 seconds, we didn't hold their hand and take them on a journey. Because I was in a metro the other day and I was amazed. I go in the metro to sneak behind the people how they're consuming content. I'm like, ab 20 crore ka ek celebrity Shahrukh Khan wala ek video banao ya fir 10,000 ki production ka content video banao. Sara ka sara effort goes up like this. Right? Which was the moment of truth that, that 3 to 6 seconds. And I just had this insight last week as well, that it's not just about the first 3 to 6 seconds. The idea is to have engagement every 6 seconds because there's so much option. And with the challenges, the only thing which I focus on and obsess about is because the goal is that videos should reach millions, should impact 1 million lives, right? Is the operating word for viral is share-worthy. If somebody shares that video, then that person gives you incremental reach. If the person shares that video, you're entering into space of his friends and family, and that's where as brand you want to be, a part of authentic conversations. And when a person shares it, like all these platforms, like every platform, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, are in the business of reach, right? So whatever you post, whatever you advertise, whatever you spend, they just give you the massive reach. But what I'm saying is if your video, if your content is so compelling that people start sharing it, they cannot stop the organic sharing of content, and even startups can start competing with big brands because of the power of content, right? The first row tells the other row and suddenly it's wildfire because the content is so awesome and people are talking about it. So share-worthy is my operating word for viral, and we're obsessed about like the whole, how we go, like a new guy joined the team and I asked him, what's the most important thing in content marketing? And videos we make, he's like, share-worthy content. I'm like, मुझे 4 साल लगे थे इसको confidently बोलने के लिए, experiment करने के लिए, and this guy is the readers of the book and share-worthy.
So you'll be very happy to know that we are in episode 5 of Brand Studio Live.
Okay.
And as of this moment, there's 5,000 shares.
That's amazing.
So
the only metric which I care about is shares. Only metric. The next is comments perhaps. Because like every platform has a different, like for example Instagram, but there's no sharing. So like how do views increase if there's more engagement, right? If shares increase on your video, and I think the new buzzword was a video is worth 1 million shares. I love the buzzword. We create buzzwords as marketers to get paid more. Like when 5 years was content marketing, I'm like content marketing you get paid more. Then up growth hacking paid more. Now we're new buzzwords. So it's exciting space to be in. In India and understanding the challenges. And what I'm most excited about finally is that Hindi is front and center. Right? I went to Canada, lived for a couple of years, and when I went there, the people there were like, no English, only Italian or Spanish. I'm like, तुम्हारे लिए तो सीख के आया था मैं, right? And like suddenly, it's the center of the world is India, right? Regional language is a big trend next year, and I'm really happy to experiment in regional language content. So yeah, thank you for having me. It was amazing.
Wonderful. We'll take a question for Aashish. Yes.
Ashish, hearing you speak was almost like hearing the Facebook newsfeed algorithm speak, because they constantly talk about like, shares are 10x, comments are 10x, likes, right? So in that order, right? And they don't care about anything else. But leaving metrics aside, let's talk about consumers a little bit. And you mentioned that sometimes you like to stalk consumers to kind of see what they're doing on video.
Yes.
What are the kind of things you do, just aside from base metrics, which all of us have access to sort of immerse yourself and your teams more in the consumer context?
See, one thing I've realized is that if we have consumers in B2C space, for example, right, you can't take decisions about consumers sitting in a boardroom. We have Trains app, India's #1 Trains app, ixigo, and we were creating a video for the Trains app, and so we figured out all the pain points a train user, faces. I'm like, we can't discuss this in a boardroom. We made a list, Googled it, had a 200-point obsessive micro moment list, but we took a train trip, went to Bareilly twice. Right? I'm like, okay, because we figured out the insights that, for example, when a person travels in trains and he has to go to the washroom, chappal share hoti hai us time pe. You don't care about the chappal, because that's what those are tiny micro moments which you only have to walk in their shoes to actually realize. And I feel that, we have a responsibility to create content which impacts the lives of people, because branding to ho hi jayegi when people are sharing it, millions of people are sharing it, aapke organic conversions increase, and that happened with us in the past. A video got us 40 million views in a week and 20,000 app installs. Right, organically in a week. So if the video goes crazy for the right reasons, then organic numbers will grow. But I think, to me, the only thing is that obsessiveness about the customer experience. Chahe wo product ho, chahe wo video ho. Like, it's more about, user ko gale lagao, and you'll figure out ki bhai, uske pain point kya hai? Because problem to sab solve kar rahe hain. Because as a product, you can solve one pain point of the user, right? Great. But there are so many other pain points in the orbit which you can solve with content. Right? And if you can creatively solve them, then, like he'll be sharing with the peer groups and you'll be part of conversations. Because branding today is not about recall. It's about relevance. Aapke baare mein baat kaun kar raha hai? If people are not talking about you, you're getting irrelevant very fast, because people are spending so much more time on social, on their phones, not so much on TV. And thanks to that.
So from chappal to video, share worthy is the key.
You bet.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Right? So, my final guest for the day is Praveen Rao, who holds more than 19 years of experience in solution sales, marketing services, and digital marketing. In his last stint with Arvato, he worked on creating India-specific marketing solutions and services. He's also worked with organizations such as Microsoft and Dun & Bradstreet India. Praveen today will shed light on the factors that brands need to keep in mind while creating videos. His topic, crafted by us together, is factors to be mindful of in the age of exploding video content. Praveen, they say that picture is worth 1,000 words, and today in this digital-first video platform, do tell us.
First of all, thank you so much for having me here, and it was a true pleasure to hear all of you here today. I think most of the conversations today were about the entertainment aspect of videos. So, educate, enable, entertain are the three important factors or levers when we talk about videos today. Goes without saying that entertainment videos are the ones who does the most when it comes to reach in terms of viewership, etc. But reality also is that enablement and education is something that people often trust more. They are the ones who search more, etc. If you really look at the matrices also, it is said that 78% of the audience trust organic content more than a paid content. This is a famous report by KPMG and Google published last year. Now, this is a paradox. Now, to begin with that, I think what is important in today's time is to understand that how this whole ecosystem of enablement and education is going to see a boom in the times to come. So, we all know the facts of cheap data access, cheap smartphones, and so on and so forth. But today, the country is also waking up to the fact that, yes, I have to go and look out for a video if I need something to enable myself. I'll narrate a small story. I bought an SUV last year without knowing much about how to change the wheels, etc. We were on a nice road trip, and my car's tire went flat. I was trying to pull out the manual, and my 12-year-old son opened phone, and he says, how to change the wheel of this car. He says, Papa, see this. Now, awesome. That video was available, not from the brand, but somebody has created it. 2, I didn't know about it. I didn't have that instinct. That 12-year-old had it. Now, out of curiosity, when I went back and checked who created it, it was not created by the brand, 1. 2, it had a few 100,000 views already for that particular video. Now, that's a question for some of my colleagues from the automotive world, as well as insurance world and financial services world, is that how-to video is something that could have really leveraged by the brand had they done it under that particular banner. That's part 1. Piece 2 is the whole ecosystem of going to Google first. Yes, we all know that as this generation, but the next generation is going to video first. And this is clearly the hack video that we spoke about. So look at the ecosystem around. with this whole Skill India and the digital initiatives by the government, the whole MOOC, which is massive open online education, is on a rise. Government is enabling it. Swayam, for example, has millions of people now going there. You name it, Udacity, Simply Learn, all of them are looking at India as a market. Now, the important ingredient in that platform is video content. Because think of the landscape of India. I'm not for a minute talking about the urban market. If you combine the underliterate are those people who have been to school but can't read and write enough, along with the illiterate people, they have got smartphones in their hand. And that's the audience which will lap up these education opportunities to beat that generation who is already ahead of them in terms of finding jobs, etc. Now, that is where most of the players or most of the investments are coming into education videos today. Think of Byju's, think of any such platform. They are disproportionately putting their money behind interactive, immersive video. Why? Because it's not for the people who are educated lot amongst us, but the ones who can't read and write. 2, the next generation belonging to my children, they are restless. They are much restless than what we are. They want video to guide them. A youngster would want to watch a video and prepare a recipe, a dish. Now, that generation would also find a Byju or a similar platform much useful because it is interactive. They have to listen, watch, and start doing something. Third aspect is the whole privacy security aspect of it. Now, we spoke about AI, we spoke about robotics, RPA, neural networks, etc. Yes, it is at play. Google Vision API is doing wonders. I work for a company, for example, it's a content platform company. Now, we generate millions of metadata just by hot ingesting the images into it and getting the details out. Now, that metadata tag is helping marketeers like you. And in certain sectors like financial services, for example, government, like India, in many other countries, government is asking brand managers to put a proportion of their marketing budgets into education, consumer education videos. Insurance sector, for example, mutual fund sector, for example, Mutual Fund Sahi Hai is one of the most rocking campaigns that one can think about. Yep. So it's the education piece. So I would rest my case by stating here that enablement in education, when powered by video, is going to have a far-reaching impact on several sectors that we have not thought about as brand managers and marketing practitioners.
Wonderful. We can take a quick question if there is one.
I think brilliant insight on, especially from a car company perspective, on educating DIY videos. While we do it, but what do you think is lacking in other segments or other sectors where videos can really bring to life?
I'll cite another example, and I'll go back to Mutual Fund Sahi Hai campaign. I was interacting with some of the industry peers from the mutual fund sector. The investor education programs, when spiced up with right entertainment value and quotient, did the trick of getting them organic leads of first-time mutual fund buyers in a much better way. Example 1. Example 2, a lot of institutions across the categories are actually enabling the audience by deciding how to and when to. So if I'm the first-time car buyer, for example, what are the 5 things I need to keep in mind if one of the brands can start thinking in that direction? Loans, choice of car, seating, nobody wants to understand torque, horsepower, etc. I mean, that's for the experts and car lovers. But the basic guy who's trying to upgrade from a bike to a car, 5 things he needs to keep in mind is what is going to do the trick for the brand in terms of long-term recall and awareness.
Wonderful. How to and when to. They say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Thank you so much. Because as we've learned from you and our brand masters today, there is no better way to engage with audiences than taking the visual route. Video storytelling is the future. It's fast emerging as a powerful tool to make consumers a part of your brand journey. I think we safely conclude that. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on episode 5 of Brand Studio Live, co-hosted by Brand Studio and DMA Asia. A special thanks to our friends from DMA Asia and Vatsal Asher for helping us power this, and to Fever FM for being our radio partners. A big round of applause to all of you for being our brand masters. You've taken out the time to be with us, share your insights and your experience. Thank you for tuning in. We look forward to coming back with another exciting theme and an all-new set of brand masters, and that's December 14th. More details coming soon. Thank you so much. Thank you.